Tahj Brooks is 100% the centerpiece of the Texas Tech offense, but Behren Morton has to be used more in order for Texas Tech to reach their full potential offensively. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast, and in today's video, we'll discuss just that in terms of the run game being the centerpiece of the Texas Tech offense, but how I think Behren Morton should be used a little bit more in order for Tahj Brooks and this Texas Tech offense to reach their full potential. If you haven't already, be sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button as well. If you want more daily Texas Tech videos here on your YouTube feed, we're giving you film breakdowns, instant reaction, game previews, game recaps, and everything in between. So stay in the know on Texas Tech football right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel. All right, before we get into it, in terms of what I think Texas Tech could do more with Behren Morton in terms of it's Morton time, and I had to do it. I just had to do it in terms of the title on this one. But before we get into it, answer this question for me. One word to describe the Texas Tech offense with Behren Morton at QB. Just let me know. Your one word down in the comments below. All right, again, let's make this clear. I understand the Texas Tech offense right now is a run-first team. There's no way around that, and I get it. I know what you're saying. RC, didn't the thumbnail say it was Morton time with the Power Rangers thing going on there? That's what I mean. I had to do it. It's Morphin time. It fit too perfectly. It's Morton time. Pretty awesome, if you ask me. Shout out to all the 90s babies out there. Anyway, in all seriousness, Tahj Brooks is 100% the centerpiece of this offense. But the way to get Tahj Brooks used most effectively, you have to have Behren Morton be good and do certain things well, right? But let's lay the lay of the land in this regard. I think Tahj Brooks is going to have a big week this week against Baylor, too. They are 13th in rushing yards allowed per game to opposing offenses. You're going into the toilet seat, a.k.a. the Waco. I just call it the toilet seat because it looks like one. I mean, sorry, Baylor fans. But you're going to Waco this weekend, right? And Waco, well, that's a solid place to play for Texas Tech. They've been close in terms of winning a couple of road games there in recent years. Now, Baylor is coming off of a historic comeback against UCF, and I expect Tahj Brooks to be used quite a bit in this game. Again, 13th against the rush are the Baylor Bears, right? He's going to get 18 to 24 touches as Tahj Brooks in this one. But you have to think about this long term if you're Texas Tech, right? You're not going to face defenses like Houston and Baylor every week. So how are you going to adjust your offense and get Behren Morton out there in more of a rhythm? Well, I have a couple of options here, okay? And let's start with this one. You got to let Morton cook for this simple reason, okay? You have to play to his strengths, and I think his strengths really suit well in a run-first offense. What do I mean by that? You have to give him reads that are downfield passing and allow him to throw darts over the middle of the field. How do you do that? RPOs and play action. Listen, Texas Tech really hasn't had a legitimate play action game since what? DeAndre Washington. That was really the last running back that teams had to take seriously in terms of Texas Tech not passing a ton, right? Like Sir Roderick's probably in there as well. But on this kind of level where there's one clear-cut guy, and that's Tahj Brooks, right? We haven't seen that since DeAndre Washington. So I think now this could help Morton be more effective and efficient. And that's really what it's all about, right? I'm not asking Behren Morton to go out there and put up Patrick Mahomes-type numbers against Oklahoma or just even Patrick Mahomes-type numbers in general at Texas Tech, right? That's not what we're asking for here. When I say you need to let Behren Morton cook, you have to allow him to be more efficient. And you do that in the RPO, in the play-action passing game, due to what Texas Tech has going for them right now. First and foremost, shout out to the offensive line. Only one sack in this one against Houston, I should say, right? But you have to think moving forward, again, you are not going to be playing Baylor or Houston every week. You're going to be facing teams that have cerebral, and I mean cerebral rushing attacks in terms of getting to the quarterback on the pass rushing side, right? So you have to think about it in the standpoint of what can we do to help mitigate those pass rushes, right? Perfect example, obviously run the football, right? Like, that's what you're going to do. but also RPOs and play action. You want to put the defense on their heels and allow Behren Morton to maybe have bigger windows to throw into, whether that's relatively in the short game, intermediate, or even downfield passing, right? So I think that there's issues with this, right? Obviously, the AC joint sprain to Behren Morton's shoulder is a problem. He missed a little bit of practice, and there was reports that Jake Strong actually took first team reps leading up to the Houston game. I think it's going to be a pain tolerance thing, right? And that's an any given Saturday type deal for Behren Morton in terms of how he's feeling. But I also think you have to do these things in order to reach your maximum ceiling if you're Texas Tech. And you have to do this relatively quickly because your schedule really heats up after Baylor. You play Kansas State right after that, right? Then you go to Provo, and then you play TCU on a Thursday, right? You have to start getting that offense and finding these little wrinkles that you want to do. And I think allowing Behren Morton to cook in the RPO and play action type setting. And by the way, in the RPO game, I know it's the run pass option, right? That's more to set up the passing option for Behren Morton in terms of that quick slant or whatever it may be, right? So that's kind of what I'm talking about there. But before we get into my next point in terms of what to expect a little bit more moving forward, do you want to see Behren Morton throw the football more? I mean, against Houston, 37 rush attempts, 22 pass attempts, right? And again, it worked out pretty well for Texas Tech. Obviously, 2 special teams touchdowns went a long way in that regard. But did you like what you saw from the Texas Tech offense in this one? And do you want them to move forward with this kind of more heavy on the run aspect of things, or would you rather get to that balanced passing attack? Let me know down in the comments below. Again, this is kind of what you can expect moving forward, in my opinion. RPOs, screens, and downfield shots. Kitley adjusted to more movement pre-snap, even against Houston, than we saw against West Virginia in the rain, which in theory helps Behren Morton. Why? Because you can get a more of a tell on the defense, right? If somebody's moving with you, I've talked about this in previous videos, it's most likely man. If they don't move, it's most likely zone. That's a tell to the quarterback, and that allows them to see, okay, are we in the proper play call? Can we get something changed real quick? If we can, great. If not, we're going to run the football here, right? That's kind of what we're looking for, okay? And so for me, when you look at it, 3 guys are really going to stand out for Texas Tech in this regard in terms of how I think the offense moves forward to reach their full potential and what that looks like. Miles Price, he's had a little bit of a drop issue, but he looked really good against Houston. I think he's going to be more of that guy that you're using in that gadget type formation, just like Nehemiah Martinez. And the guy on the outside that I think you're going to throw the ball downfield to is Jerron Bradley, obviously. Jerron Bradley only had 3 targets and 1 catch for 5 yards against Houston. I don't think that can happen again. You're going to actually have to use him on the outside and have defenses respect that downfield passing threat, right? And who better than to do that with than Jerron Bradley and Behren Morton, who loves to throw the deep ball, right? Why do you have to do this? This pushes the safeties back, right? This allows you to have less guys in the box. Less guys in the box, you can give the centerpiece of the offense the ball more, i.e. Tahj Brooks. It all is about efficiency to me, right? Like, I, again, am not asking Behren Morton to go out there and throw for 500 yards. In an ideal world for me, Behren Morton would throw for 250 and 2 every game. That's what I would love to see, because that means you're probably rushing for around 150 yards as a team, right? That's the ideal circumstance here if you're Texas Tech. And I think you can do that with the guys that you have by using them more in motion, getting those tight ends out, creating an extra block, having them go out to the flats, fake a block, go out on a wheel route, right? Like, the creativity from the motion aspect will allow Behren Morton to progress, in my opinion. Now, really what it comes down to is this, and I think a lot of y'all stayed around for this, and I appreciate that. Like the video if you like what you're seeing here on the channel. The maximum potential for this Texas Tech offense. Through 5 games, Texas Tech is 9th in the Big 12 in passing yards per game and 8th in rushing yards per game. Do I expect Texas Tech to be the #1 passing team in the Big 12 this year like Oklahoma? No, I don't. I don't think anybody should. Do I expect them to be the #1 rushing team in the Big 12? No, I don't. I think this is going to be a very well-balanced offense, but I think you have to do this in the sense of your priority each and every week is to go out and make Tahj Brooks the centerpiece, while also having a 1B priority, which is what can we do to allow Behren Morton to be the most efficient, right, he can be this week. it's going to be different every week, right? Some teams like to run zone more. Some teams like to run man. Some teams like to pass rush more. Some like to sit back, right? But I think when you have these two complements that really do complement each other, right? Like Behren Morton and Tahj Brooks, they work really, really well together in terms of what Texas Tech wants to do offensively. I think moving forward, you're going to see more of the things that we talked about in this video, whether that's the RPO, but more specifically the play action aspect of things and a lot of pre-motion snaps, right? You're going to see that, right? A lot of pre-motion before the snap. And it's going to be very interesting because by no means in the traditional way am I saying let Behren Morton cook or it's Morton time. Shout out to the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, right? But I do think there is a way for Texas Tech to be much more efficient offensively. And I think you kind of saw a relative blueprint for it against Houston. Now, you're obviously going to have to make week-to-week adjustments, but I think that that's what you're looking for if you're Texas Tech moving forward in terms of the efficiency aspect of it. Because, again, he was 14-22 was Morton against Houston. Really, he probably should have been 18-22. Texas Tech had 4 drops in this one. So you look at what Texas Tech did well in this game against Houston and how can it translate to Baylor, Kansas State, BYU, TCU, so on and so forth, right? But I think when it all comes down to it, Tahj Brooks is the centerpiece to this offense for Texas Tech, but you have to let Behren Morton cook. It's Morton time, right? It's Morton time. I probably said that one too many times, but I enjoyed myself with it. If you haven't already, be sure to like the video and hit that subscribe button to stay in the know on Texas Tech football all year long right here on the most engaging Texas Tech community on YouTube. Of course, I'm talking about the Back to 12 podcast channel.